You've just touched on something there which is quite important. You know, you just talked about this idea of an identical display. What do you think all of these big companies have in common with each other? What are some of the
brand experience?
Yeah, what else? What are some of the things that they really closely manage?
Customer service.
Customer experience, we call it, a bit wider. Brand. Yeah. And how do they do that? Where do those decisions come from? These strategic decisions, who makes them?
Management, big boss.
Global.
Yeah, that's right. They're global. These are strategic decisions. Okay, and I think that one of the things about this project is I think it has massive potential, but I think that perhaps the focus of the recommendations could be targeted better.
Right.
So all these people have massive departments, strategic decision makers, policy documents, all of these things in place about their brand experience, about their customer experience. Okay, thinking about this idea of luxury, high street, niche retailers, these kind of clothing brands, who doesn't have that kind of experience? Who doesn't have that kind of help? What kind of retailer?
Cheap ones.
Not necessarily cheap
Like
ones.
one-off.
One-off.
And I have got some images
Of independent retailers.
of independent retailers.
Because all of these things, all of these different levels, when you looked at your breakdown, you've got your, your luxury brands, you've got your high street brands, and then I don't know what would be the other end of the very, very the cheapest, the budget shops. All of those things exist in ever decreasing numbers, but they do exist on our high street. Yeah? So one of the most famous independent retailers is it Whistles in Liverpool, where all the footballers' wives shop.
Yeah.
And they are very high end.
Are they not? Is that not a chain, that shop?
No, it's the
only
one. It's just the only
Whistles,
one.
I can't remember if that.
No, is it Whistle? There's a shop
No,
in.
it's I know which one you mean. I can't think of what it's called.
It's not Whistles, is it?
I think I've seen Whistles.
No, I think it is.
Oh no, Whistles is a. But there is a shop in, and it's a one-off, and they're very, very high end.
Right.
There are a number of very high end independent retailers. Not very many, but there is a few. And if you look anywhere off the major high streets, I'm thinking about in Stoke, we have lots of different high streets within Stoke-on-Trent, about 7 towns. And within all of those, they have independent retailers. And very often their window displays are, they're not great. And why aren't they great? Maybe they don't have the resources to make them great. So I'm just trying to think, what purpose could this investigation, what purpose could it serve? What might you do with it? What's it for?
To help maybe an independent company.
Because I'm thinking, these guys, do they need help?
No.
Who does need help?
But then I'm going to try and find, so obviously, again, you get your luxury independent, then you get your cheap independents.
Yeah.
So they can take influence from the chain companies and how they produce it. Like this
I see real value in that. Don't you all see real value in that? Is taking what these guys are doing so well, downscaling and making it possible for the independent who perhaps doesn't have all this stuff behind them. I think there's real value in that as a project. I don't know if anybody else.
I don't know whether, I don't know that this is adding a bit too much onto your thing. I don't know if you'd want to touch on it. It's like the online window display, if you will, like now online shopping I think is bigger in some ways than actual shopping. So I wonder whether you said some companies just don't bother anymore, like they just put them maybe as advertised online shopping, or does online shopping have their own visual, because it's supposed to, it's the interface, isn't it, is their window display? Does like yours and all their follow onto the website as well?
Or maybe I could just do pure online, like ASOS.
Yeah. And how do they do it instead of a window display? What do they?
I think possibly what you need to do is you need to pick an avenue, because I don't think that you can do both. I mean, I think that the two things are very different. I think you can use all of this research for whichever way you go, whether or not you want to choose this to inform independent retailers, or whether you want to develop some sort of a set of guidelines for online retailers. I don't think it matters which, but I think you need to pick one, because otherwise you risk doing two things not well enough, whereas you could do one thing really, really well. And I think that's kind of up to you. It's your decision. But yeah, you're right. Online retailers are developing their own personality, and there are independent online retailers.
There's probably a lot more of them than there is high street.
Probably, yeah. I'm just thinking as well. There is an element of crossover. So I think you need to pick a focus, and then also remember that there's a wider picture. What in particular? There's a lot of clothing agencies at the moment. I don't know if you've noticed that. You take your old clothes in, they're generally of better quality than a charity shop. So, they might be designer clothes agencies. And there's one in our high street, and it's very small, the town where I live. But what I noticed is she's done a Halloween display, and it's lovely, and it's not tacky at all. And all she's done is taken all the most kind of rock and roll, gothic samples of clothes that she's got for men, women and children, and she's just made a very lovely display out of them. And that kind of reaction to calendar events, the wide, it is really interesting, especially for an independent who is essentially, she's a clothing agency. And I'm just thinking,
where's that?
that's in Biddle, which is where I live.
Yeah.
Which I could take a picture of it for you.
Well, no, because that's my mum and dad live that end.
Oh yeah, of course you do. And it's just really lovely because it's a tiny town where I live. Yet she's making that effort, and I think that there's a lot of independent retailers that have websites, so there is a link between what goes on in the shop and what goes on online, and so it's definitely something you can investigate together. But I think look at perhaps the strongest or the easiest bit, or the bit that holds the most interest for you, and then go down that road. But I think you'll agree, it's got a lovely potential to it.
Yeah.
I think you just need to.
Okay. Just
Yeah. Anybody else got any? There's quite a lot of crossover with what you're looking at, William, at the
I think
moment.
there's a crossover between everybody, isn't
Plus
there?
the branding and the experience, the brand experience is quite.
And then this is like my controversial stuff.
Which is that?
That's Helmut Lang. I just thought it was like an odd one, but it's his Halloween display. That one, and there's that one. Wow.
Is the guideline for advertising? You've got those ASA. Is there a window display guideline? If you wanted to complain, who would you complain to? Is there like a window display association?
There was Clinton Cards did one, and it got. Let me see if I can find it.
You got complained about?
It got taken down. I showed you this one, didn't I? It got because it's too scary for kids because it's on the high street. It was too scary for kids. It was in like a shopping centre.
There's nothing to do with cards on there whatsoever, though, is there?
It's really not that scary, but obviously as far as I feel like an 8-year-old at 6, it just looks creepy as hell.
Yeah. And obviously if that's next to like Build-A-Bear or something, it's a bit.
The thing is, I find it creepy more like the ones that you just showed us. Was it like Horror Nights or something?
Helmut Lang, yeah. But they're kind of.
I mean, that's really controversial.
You wouldn't take kids to one of those shops
anyway.
anyway.
It's like taking them like Diesel and DKNY over on that side of.
But imagine just like walking past out like the high street or something.
Yeah.
Like never seen that. That was just like creepy or something like. Sort of just.
But they were fairly violent images as well. They're not really.
Gruesome.
They are quite gruesome. But it's not so much even that they're gruesome, because gruesome implies.
That's a bit of like tongue on a cheek banter, because that literally is a cloth over a model. It's hilarious.
But she's advertising her shoes in a bag, so at the same time she's doing it quite well. Or I wondered if it was while seasons were changing over as well, like her collections were changing over, and she's not quite got everything together yet.
And all she's got to show is her shoes in bags. Quite it up. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, like the guys in Market Street and spandex, like.
Yeah.
I think also what would be quite good is if you define what you mean by, the window display in terms. Well, no, I mean in terms of, if we're talking about an online window and we're talking about because I don't think you can now. If you're going to bring this online element, I don't think you can analyse the whole of the web page, because that's quite a lot. But perhaps just that first page that you hit. Yeah, absolutely. So
maybe like graphic structure behind that. Could we not just do a tiny because that's not going to really include in my word count if I'm doing
You do the
tracing
images.
paper effect
Yeah.
and then just scribbling on it.
Yeah, you can.
Cool.
Okay, lovely.